Hello and welcome to this episode of the Recruitment Podcast, where we celebrate academic recruitment and bring education to everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something of a paradox. With all these tech layoffs happening, you'd think that universities would be just flooded with applications for open tech positions. But surprisingly, that's not really the case. So we're going to be looking into why that disconnect exists and what we can maybe do to bridge that gap. I've got a stack of articles here that are going to be shedding some light on the situation. And I have to say, I was really struck by some of the insights that they offered. They really highlight the importance of shifting our perspective and understanding the unique needs and motivations of today's tech workforce. And joining me today is an expert who's been grappling with this very challenge. They've seen firsthand the difficulties of attracting tech talent to higher education and have some really valuable insights to share. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
It's a pleasure to be here. I think it's really crucial to acknowledge that this isn't just a passing trend. The EDUCAUSE Top 10 IT Issues list actually ranks evolve, adapt, or lose talent as the number 3 priority for 2023. And this really underscores how widespread this recruitment challenge is across higher education.
Wow, number 3. That is significant. One of the things that I found so fascinating in these articles is this idea that there's actually a perception gap, not a skills gap. So it's not that we don't have qualified tech workers out there. Is that we're not effectively communicating the unique benefits that higher education has to offer. And one of the most compelling benefits that was highlighted over and over again is this idea of mission-driven work. In higher ed, we kind of take this for granted, but for millennials and Gen Z, having a job that aligns with their values and makes a real difference in the world, that's huge for them.
Absolutely. This generation is so driven by purpose. They want to feel like their work contributes to something larger than themselves. And in higher education, you're directly supporting groundbreaking research, shaping the minds of future generations, advancing knowledge in ways that impact society as a whole.
Yeah, it's such a powerful motivator, especially for those who might be feeling disillusioned with the for-profit world.
Right.
I can imagine a tech worker who's feeling burned out by the constant pressure to deliver profits might really crave that sense of purpose that academia can provide.
Precisely. The long-term impact of their work, the opportunity to be part of a legacy of academic excellence that's incredibly appealing to many tech professionals. It's a different kind of reward system than what they might find in the private sector.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the lifestyle benefits too.
Right.
College towns are often known for their vibrant culture, walkable communities, and a much lower cost of living compared to those major tech hubs. And that can be a huge draw for tech workers, especially those with families or who are just looking for a better work-life balance.
Yeah, you're right. We often overlook the fact that location plays a significant role in career decisions. College towns offer this unique blend of intellectual stimulation and a more relaxed pace of life. It's not just about the job itself, it's about the overall quality of life that comes with working in a university setting.
Right. It's like having access to all the amenities of a big city, but with that added sense of community and affordability.
And speaking of affordability, let's talk about tuition benefits. This is a perk that I think is often overlooked, but it can be a total game changer, especially for families.
Oh, tuition remission programs are a significant benefit that higher education institutions can really leverage. We're talking about free or significantly reduced tuition for employees and their dependents. And this can be a major factor in attracting tech talent, especially those with children who are approaching college age or those who are looking to continue their own education while working. Absolutely. It's an incredible opportunity for both professional and personal growth.
Yeah.
And it aligns perfectly with the value that higher education places on lifelong learning. It's a win-win situation for both the employee and the institution.
Yeah, and while all these benefits are compelling, it's important to remember that simply knowing about them isn't enough. We need to effectively communicate these advantages to potential candidates in a way that resonates with their needs and aspirations.
You're hitting on such a crucial point. We can't just assume that tech workers understand the higher education world or that they'll automatically see the appeal of these benefits.
Yeah.
We need to really tailor our recruitment approach to speak directly to their priorities.
Exactly. And, one of the biggest priorities for today's tech workforce is work-life balance. The tech industry is notorious for its demanding work culture and long hours, so it's really no surprise that many tech workers are seeking a more balanced lifestyle.
Yeah, and there was actually a Gallup study that found that well-being is a top priority for job seekers these days, especially among millennials and Gen Z. So it's clear that this generation is placing a much higher value on their personal time and well-being.
And that's where higher education can really shine. While there are certainly busy periods in academia, the overall culture tends to be more focused on work-life harmony. We have to showcase this, not just tell it. Remember that anecdote from the article about the university IT staff with such diverse hobbies, the
Hmm.
ballroom dancer, the beekeeper? It really paints this picture of a fulfilling life outside of work.
Yeah, those anecdotes are so powerful. They make this idea of work-life balance so much more tangible and relatable. It shows that it's not just a buzzword, it's a reality in higher education.
Hmm.
And we really need to incorporate those kinds of stories into our recruitment materials.
Absolutely. We need to move beyond simply listing benefits and start painting a picture of what it's actually like to work in a university setting. We need to highlight the culture, the values, the sense of community that makes higher education so unique.
So it sounds like we have a pretty strong case here. Higher education offers purpose-driven work, vibrant locations, incredible perks like tuition benefits, and a better work-life balance. So the question is, why aren't tech workers beating down our doors?
That is the million-dollar question, and I think the answer lies in a combination of factors. We need to reevaluate how we present ourselves, how we recruit, and how we communicate the value proposition of working in higher education.
Because simply knowing about these benefits isn't enough. We have to actively sell them right. We need to speak the language of tech talent, showcase our strengths, and dispel any misconceptions they might have about higher education.
Precisely. We need to package our benefits in a way that resonates with their values and priorities.
Mm.
We need to paint a clear picture of what it's really like to work in higher education beyond the stereotypes.
And I think that's where things get really interesting. It's not just about filling open positions, it's about a fundamental shift in how we approach recruitment in higher education. We need to be more strategic, more creative, and more attuned to the evolving needs of the workforce.
Absolutely. It's about challenging our assumptions, rethinking our strategies, and being willing to adapt to the changing landscape of the workforce. We can't keep doing things the way we've always done them and expect different results.
And we'll be delving deeper into those specific strategies and tactics in the next part of our deep dive. So stay tuned for more insights and actionable advice.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Recruitment Podcast. So let's dive into some concrete steps that universities can take to attract tech talent. And I think a good place to start is with job descriptions.
Yeah, because, as we were talking about before, those traditional job descriptions, they often feel really stuffy and formal. They just don't capture that dynamic environment that we have in higher ed.
They really don't. We need to inject some life into them, tell a story that goes beyond just listing technical skills.
Right. So instead of just saying must be proficient in Python,
Yeah.
we could frame it as like, help us develop cutting-edge AI tools to personalize the student learning experience.
Exactly. Connect that technical skill to the bigger picture, the impact that they'll have on campus.
And I think the language itself needs a makeover too. No more jargon-filled paragraphs.
Yeah.
We need to use language that tech workers actually use, language that's clear and concise and even a bit playful.
I completely agree. Think about the job postings that grab your attention. It's not just the words, it's the overall feel right. A catchy headline, strong visuals, a sense that this job is different.
Yeah, it's like we need to sell the sizzle of higher ed, not just the steak.
Perfect analogy. Now let's move beyond the job posting to the interview process itself. This is where we really need to ditch the old playbook.
Yeah, because asking, tell me about your greatest weakness, just doesn't cut it anymore, does it?
It really doesn't.
Mhm.
We need to see how candidates think, not just what they've done in the past. And one really powerful approach is using situational or case-based interviews.
Okay, I've heard of those, but for listeners who haven't, could you explain a little bit about how those work?
Absolutely. So imagine you're hiring for a cybersecurity role. Instead of asking about their experience with firewalls, you present a scenario like, our university's network is under attack. What are the first 3 steps you'd take?
Wow, that's so much more engaging than just rattling off certifications. You're actually seeing how they think under pressure.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It allows us to assess problem solving, adaptability, creativity, skills that are so crucial in today's rapidly changing tech landscape.
Another point that came up in the articles was this need for transparency during the interview process.
Yeah.
Tech workers are savvy. They can smell a sales pitch a mile away.
Oh, they can. And nothing turns them off faster than feeling like they're not getting the real story.
Yeah.
So be upfront about the challenges of working in higher ed, the workload, the bureaucracy, the sometimes slower pace.
But balance that with the positives, the sense of community, the intellectual stimulation, the chance to truly make a difference.
Right. It's about finding the right fit, both for the candidate and the institution. And remember, the interview is a two-way street. Candidates are interviewing us just as much as we're interviewing them.
That's such a good reminder. We need to be prepared to answer their questions thoughtfully and honestly. What about this idea of showcasing specific projects that the university is working on? I feel like that could be a really great way to pique the interest of tech talent.
Oh, it's a fantastic strategy. Tech workers, especially those with a few years of experience under their belt, they want to know that they'll be working on something cutting edge, something that matters.
Right, so if our university is doing groundbreaking research on climate change or developing new VR tools for education, that needs to be front and center in our recruitment materials.
Absolutely. Highlight those projects in job descriptions on your website, even on social media. Give them a glimpse of the exciting things that are happening on campus. Make them want to be a part of it.
Right, it's about tapping into that desire to make an impact, to be at the forefront of innovation. And speaking of tapping into networks, the articles also really emphasize the importance of building relationships with the tech community.
Relationships are key, especially since tech talent is in such high demand. They have options. So we need to be proactively reaching out, not just waiting for applications to roll in.
So attending industry events, conferences, hackathons even, that's where we can connect with tech professionals in their element.
Exactly. It's not just about recruiting at these events. It's about building genuine connections, learning about the latest trends, showcasing what your institution has to offer.
And let's not underestimate the power of social media either. LinkedIn, Twitter, those are where tech folks live and breathe.
They are. We need to be active on those platforms, sharing not just job postings, but also thought leadership content, news about your research, even behind the scenes glimpses of campus life.
Right, make them feel like they're already part of the community. Now, one thing that I think often gets overlooked is the need to create a culture of innovation within the university itself. How do we attract innovators if we don't embrace innovation?
It's such a crucial point, and one that requires a shift in mindset from the top down. Leadership needs to set the tone, encouraging experimentation, rewarding calculated risk-taking, even embracing failure as a learning opportunity.
Because let's be honest, higher ed has a reputation for being a bit slow-moving, risk-averse.
It does. But that doesn't mean we can't change. We need to invest in resources that support innovation. Modern labs, collaborative workspaces, access to cutting-edge technology.
And most importantly, empower our employees to be creative, to think outside the box, to challenge the status quo.
Exactly. Break down those silos, encourage cross-departmental collaboration, give people the freedom to pursue their ideas. That's how you create an environment that attracts and retains top tech talent.
Because they want to know that their work matters, that they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. And this brings us to another really crucial aspect, diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely. Tech workers, especially those from underrepresented groups, they want to see themselves reflected in the workplace. They want to know they'll be valued and respected for who they are.
So this isn't just about hitting diversity quotas. It's about creating a genuinely inclusive environment where everyone feels like they belong.
Exactly. And that starts with leadership making diversity and inclusion a top priority, investing in mentorship programs, affinity groups, diversity training, making sure your hiring processes are fair and equitable.
Because diversity isn't just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. It brings in a wider range of perspectives and experiences, which ultimately leads to better solutions and a more innovative culture.
You're absolutely right. Now, one thing that I think is particularly impactful in attracting and retaining tech talent is mentorship. It's about more than just technical knowledge. It's about guidance support and building lasting connections.
And this is something that higher ed can really excel at. We have so many experienced professionals within our institutions who could be incredible mentors.
We do. It's about formally establishing mentorship programs, providing training for both mentors and mentees, and making sure those programs are accessible to everyone regardless of their background.
Because seeing someone who looks like you, who's walked a similar path, succeeding in higher ed, that can be incredibly inspiring.
It can. And finally, let's address the elephant in the room: compensation. We know higher ed often struggles to compete with private sector salaries, but we can't ignore this.
Right. We need to be realistic. We need to offer competitive salaries, especially for those in-demand tech roles, and be really transparent about how we determine compensation.
Exactly. Explain your compensation philosophy, what factors you consider, what opportunities for advancement exist. Because tech workers are aware of their market value, and they're not afraid to ask for what they're worth.
And honestly, we shouldn't be afraid to offer it.
Yeah.
Because the talent that they bring to our institutions is invaluable.
Couldn't agree more. Now, to effectively communicate all of this, we need to think about marketing ourselves strategically, not just posting job descriptions, but actually selling the higher ed experience.
Right. So utilizing the channels that tech talent frequent. Social media, online job boards, targeted advertising even. Make our materials visually appealing, easy to navigate, and mobile-friendly.
Exactly. And don't forget about showcasing those stories, the ones that highlight your unique culture, your innovative projects, the work-life balance you offer.
Right. Make them feel like they're not just applying for a job, they're joining a
Mm,
community of passionate, purpose-driven individuals.
absolutely. And once you've attracted them, the work doesn't stop there. Retention is just as crucial as recruitment.
Right. Because it's not enough to just get them in the door. We need to create an environment where they want to stay.
Exactly. So think about professional development opportunities, mentorship programs, clear pathways for advancement.
Recognize and reward their contributions. Make them feel valued and appreciated. Because at the end of the day, it's about creating a workplace where tech talent can thrive.
It is a place where they feel challenged, supported, and inspired to make a difference.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. And I feel like we've really unpacked some concrete actions that universities can take. It's a shift in mindset, a willingness to adapt, and a genuine commitment to meeting the needs of today's tech workforce.
Well said. We can't afford to be complacent. The future of higher education depends on our ability to attract and retain top talent.
And with the right strategies in place, I believe we can do just that. But for now, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some real-world examples of institutions that are successfully attracting and retaining tech talent.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Recruitment Podcast.
So we've explored some of the challenges and opportunities of recruiting tech talent to higher education. And we've discussed some strategies for attracting them.
Right. Now let's look at specific institutions that are actually putting these strategies into practice, proving that it can be done.
Yeah. And, from what I've read, it's not just those big-name tech schools either. Smaller universities are getting really creative, and they're seeing some great results.
Exactly. Take the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, for example. One of the articles highlighted their unique approach to showcasing work-life balance. They actually feature employees outside of work passions in their IT newsletter.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. Ballroom dancers, novelists, even a beekeeper. It just really humanizes the university and shows that a fulfilling life outside of work is possible.
Right, and it directly addresses a major concern for those tech workers who might be wary of academia's demands. It's a subtle but powerful way to say, hey, we get it, you're more than just your code.
And it feels authentic. It's not just some marketing ploy. It shows they truly value their employees as whole people. Now, another institution that stood out to me was Arizona State University. They've completely revamped their interview process.
Yeah, ASU has moved away from those tired old interview questions, and they're using case-based scenarios to assess candidates.
So instead of asking, tell me about a time you failed, they're presenting real-world challenges that simulate the work environment.
Exactly. It's a much more engaging and relevant way to gauge problem-solving skills and really see how a candidate thinks on their feet.
And it gives those potential hires a realistic preview of what it's actually like to work at ASU. It's a win-win. Now, we can't talk about attracting tech talent without mentioning MIT.
Of course, MIT is practically synonymous with innovation. Their reputation for cutting-edge research is a major draw for tech professionals.
But they don't just rest on their laurels. They actively leverage that strength in their recruitment materials.
Right. They showcase specific projects, highlighting how each role contributes to groundbreaking research and technological advancements.
And I think that really taps into that desire to be a part of something bigger, to make a tangible impact on the world. It's not just a job, it's a chance to be a part of history in the making.
And another crucial aspect is diversity and inclusion,
Yep.
and UC Berkeley is really leading the charge here.
Yeah, they've implemented a range of programs and initiatives to foster a truly inclusive work environment. Mentorship programs, affinity groups, diversity training, you name it.
And they're really intentional about their recruitment outreach, ensuring a diverse pool of applicants. They recognize that a variety of perspectives leads to greater innovation and ultimately better solutions.
And it's not just about checking boxes. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels welcomed, respected, and empowered to contribute. And that's incredibly appealing to today's tech workforce.
Absolutely. So we've seen how UNC Chapel Hill emphasizes work-life balance, ASU focuses on case-based interviews, MIT highlights groundbreaking research, and UC Berkeley champions diversity and inclusion.
And these institutions are really demonstrating that attracting tech talent to higher education is achievable with the right strategies and a genuine commitment to creating that positive and supportive work environment.
Yeah, it's about showcasing what makes higher ed unique, being transparent about the culture, and demonstrating a commitment to meeting the needs of today's tech professionals.
So if you're involved in higher education recruitment, take inspiration from these examples.
Challenge your assumptions, experiment with new approaches, and remember that this is an ongoing process.
The tech landscape is constantly changing, and so should our recruitment strategies.
By embracing creativity, authenticity, and a genuine commitment to creating a welcoming and engaging workplace, higher education institutions can attract the best tech minds and continue to shape the future.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into recruiting tech workers for higher education. I hope this conversation has inspired you to rethink your approach and explore new possibilities.
Absolutely. And if you're looking to explore higher ed jobs in your field, be sure to visit academicjobs.com. You might just find your dream career waiting for you.
Thanks for joining us on the Recruitment Podcast, where we celebrate academic recruitment and bring education to everyone.
Until next time.